Hello everybody and welcome back. In the last video what did we do? Oh, that's right. We modified this UI here and then we ran into a little bit of a UI issue with this not being favorited. Correct, it should not be favorited here, but if we favorite in this detail activity and we come back, it doesn't seem like it is favorited until you scroll away and scroll back. So there's just a little bit of a disconnection here. And this led into the preliminary discussion of our lifecycle callbacks. So what I've done here, as we kind of briefly went over in this last episode, we briefly took a look at this chart, kind of broke it down a little bit, and mentioned that essentially we're running into this issue of the main activity not going through this entire life cycle, and this soccer detail activity class going through that entire life cycle. So I've gone ahead and all of these, except the onCreate, because we know that's happening, I've gone ahead and put log statements in all of the callback, the lifecycle callbacks, with a little bit of a tag of whether they're in the main activity or whether they're in the detail activity, and just what function is being called here. So if we actually were to run this and take a little bit of a look at the output here, we'll get a sense as to what's going on here. Let me see if we filter by, yeah, I guess that'll work. Just the info. So you can see here, main activity on start, on resume, sorry. And so all is good, right? We're at this point. If we go ahead and click learn more, main activity on pause, detail activity on start, detail activity on resume, detail activity, or sorry, main activity on stop. So even though we've now made it to a completely new activity here, the main activity on destroy has not happened. And so when we end up going back, we'll see here detail activity on pause, main activity on start, on resume, detail activity on stop, on destroy. So you can see that the detail activity manages to go through all of these callbacks. Again, we're not doing on create, but we saw on start, on resume, and then as we went backwards, we saw the on pause, we saw the on stop, and we saw the on destroy happening, but we never saw the on destroy happening for the main activity. And so you can actually see here, as you move down through this list, you can see a little bit of how you can go backwards, to different lifecycle callbacks from the activity level, right? So on pause, that could happen when a dialog gets presented on screen. The activity technically runs on pause, and then the user dismisses that dialog, and then on resume runs. And on stop is now when it's out of visibility of the user. However, if it has not been destroyed, the user navigates to the activity. You can see on restart gets called, and then on start again gets called. So you can kind of see that there's a relationship between on resume and on pause, on start and on stop, and on create and on destroy. And specifically when navigating back to the activity, basically whichever degree you go to, whether it's paused, whether it's stopped, or whether it's destroyed, you're going to then resume to basically the creation counterpart to the event that was called. So the activity is destroyed, it gets recreated, but if the activity is only paused, it only gets resumed. And so that's why we're seeing this discrepancy here in the layout, because in onCreate and only in onCreate are we actually doing anything for the main activity to as far as managing the UI, right? So when onCreate happens, we get our list, we do all the adapter configuration, we set our adapter, and we notify our adapter of the change or of changes so that all of these things get drawn on the screen. But we can go ahead and delete most of these. We don't need them anymore. But the on resume will go ahead and get called. Well, actually, the on start and the on resume will go ahead and get called. So we'll just do it in on resume. But since on create were to get called, and then on start and then on resume, whether the, well, no, sorry, that's not true. What I'm trying to say is the on resume function will be called whether this is the first time the user's navigating to the activity, like they open the app, or whether they go backwards. So if we were to just translate, again, Command X to cut it, and then Command V to paste it, if we were to then notify our adapter to change in the on resume, we will pick up these little changes that had happened in the other activity when we navigate back. So again, not favorited, learn more, decide that it is a favorite, go backwards, and boom, it's now favorited. And if we were to, go forward again and then come back, boom. So now we've seen that everything is working and everything is in tandem, and that's because, again, we never saw the on destroy happen for this main activity because it exists in the backstack. We have enough memory, the system's fine with it, there's no reason that it needs to be completely destroyed. So when we go back, the only thing that ends up happening was that on start and then on resume get called. However, on create was never getting called again, so we weren't going through all of this recreation process and drawing the UI and whatnot. So hopefully that provided a little bit more input and understanding as to why some of these, or why we had this particular issue, and hopefully you can kind of get an idea of what's happening under the hood based on this little diagram here, of the creation process, the activity running, the destruction process, and then how these two things are connected to one another. And we kind of show that a little bit with the different logs that were going out at different times. So feel free to play around with that in your own little sandbox. Put some log statements in, or maybe even hit some breakpoints if you wanted to, and you can see the system creating one activity while starting to tear down the other activity, and etc. And then you'll have an even deeper understanding. But for now, I think that's good enough. Hopefully, it did provide enough information as to why the we were running into that issue, and how we were able to solve that. But in this case, we're actually now notifying dataset changed whether or not anything actually changed. So we decided to go here and come back, like we told the adapter to update itself or rerun everything, even though nothing changed. So we could have some kind of a little bit of a better system to that, but I'm not too worried about it at the moment. It's more so just to demonstrate how to keep these things in sync, and given the current architecture that we have of the different activities, being the two different screens that we go to. But I think now we are going to go ahead and not rewrite, but convert this entire application that we have here that's reasonably functional. If we put better text here, it could actually be somewhat meaningful. Or if we had, an endpoint to hit or something like that that gave us up-to-date information, this could be, just fine. But I think we're going to go ahead and uplift this to now condense this into a single activity and work in the scope of fragments. So this screen here that you see right now would be a fragment, and then this screen here would also be another fragment. However, we would not have to worry about this translation between two different activities, and we would also not have to worry about the scoping issue that we had of making something visible to both the main activity and the detail activity. If we stay all within one activity and use fragments to display this UI, either this screen or the next one, we will have basically the parent activity being a container for both of those fragments, and so therefore we'll have a common place for the two fragments to reference a particular list. And so we can actually remove this being static if we wanted to. We can get into a few other discussions about, I guess, architecture and whatnot, but we'll take it slow, and we will just go ahead and introduce fragments at a reasonable pace. So thanks for sticking with me. I will catch you in the next one.